Afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. Why don't we, no, I'm sorry, Tony, can we start with the roll call, please?
Jimenez, Torres, Cohen,
Here.
Ortiz,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Dwan,
Here.
Candelas,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
Batra,
Here.
Kamei,
Here.
Mahan.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, so thanks again. Yeah, and everyone be careful. Your mics are all automatically on. You have to manually hold them down to turn them off. But appreciate everybody taking the time to be here. You know, this came out of some conversations that council members Cohen and Foley and I had about taking time, the value of taking time to step back and reflect on how we're working together, and talk about norms and how we might be able to be more effective and more efficient together. We've done a lot of great work together this year, but obviously a lot of new members, a lot of changes on the council, and I think there's at least 3 areas where in conversation today, I'm hoping that we can all grow and work better together. One is procedurally, just everybody getting really well grounded in the parliamentary procedure and the kind of basic nuts and bolts of how the meetings run. Another is, of course, any norms around how we interact and work through these formal meetings. And then finally, kind of preparation prior to the meeting, how we work with staff and making sure everyone's fully aware of the ways that we can really take advantage of the immense institutional knowledge and expertise that our professional staff have, so that we come into the meetings really well prepared and are able to get to the heart of an issue and make good decisions. And there's, of course, no expectation that we're going to come out of this all agreeing on the issues, but the hope is that process-wise, procedurally, culturally, we're set up to be as effective as a body as we can possibly be. And I think we've been doing a lot of great work together, but this is just an opportunity for us to step back and reflect on what is and isn't working well and what we might be able to do better together. So I want to do a couple things. I'm in a moment going to turn it over to council members Foley and Cohen to share their thoughts, because we co-authored the memo, and anything else they want to add. But I also just really want to thank Lee Wilcox in particular, but the whole administration and including Nora, for helping to plan this session and putting a lot of thought into how they can support us in our growth as an elected body. So thank you, Lee. Looking forward to the session today. I know you put a lot of time into this, and I appreciate it. So I don't know if Councilmember Foley or Cohen, do either of you want to share any thoughts?
I defer to D4.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for being here. When I was on the school board, one of the things that the State School Board Association does really well is provide training for new school board members when you first join the school board. And it's occurred to me that even in a few years, we've never had this kind of training, this kind of team building that I think school districts do every 2 years when there's new members on their boards, and we do annual goal setting, we do annual norms discussions and training as school boards. And so one of the things that they talked about is that being a member of a board is different than in a lot of other positions, a lot of other leadership roles. It's about being part of a team, a governance team they call it, and there's a lot of training about what it means to be a governance team, and understand the dynamics and responsibilities of every member of that team. And so I think that this is a good opportunity for us to have that discussion. The hardest part of being part of a governance team compared to things that people do in other types of roles is that the city, the organization that's led by that team, is acting by the direction of the team collectively and not by the direction of individuals. And so understanding that we act collectively, even though we all might not agree on the direction that gets decided on, that comes out of that team, but we have to be supportive of the direction that comes out of the group. And so while we advocate for our own positions, we also are supposed to be supportive of the collective directions that we choose. And it's really one of the hardest things about being an elected official on a governance team. So I hope that we'll be able to start to talk today a little bit about how we listen and understand the will of the body just as much as we know we're all good at advocating for our own objectives. And we have many competing interests. We have the interests of the city, of our own districts, of our constituents, of advocates, and our own political interests. And we have to balance all those things, but also understand the collective outcome that we get. And the procedures that we have, Robert's rules, and all of our city governance documents are there to facilitate the functioning of the team that we all are trying to steer in the same direction with all our own different inputs. And so what I learned after we started talking about this was that we have a great expert here, Lee, and I just want to also brag a little about him. He's actually done this training. Other cities invite him to go there and do training for their teams. He's done this kind of training for, I understand, was it Morgan Hill and other cities, right? And so we have somebody here who has the ability to bring some of that facilitation for us to have this conversation. And so I'm excited to go through the exercises, and I hope that we'll all learn something and take something away from the exercise.
Thanks, Councilmember. Councilmember Foley, you want to add anything?
Very well said. So I don't have much to add except to sort of mirror what Councilmember Cohen said about the training we had on the school board, and just to give you some background on what we used to do. And don't throw this out as just to say we did it so well at San Jose Unified and we need to adopt it here. I'm not saying that, but it was a learning tool for us. And one thing we used to do was every year we'd start the session off in August or September with a retreat. And the school board also must abide by the Brown Act. So these are open public meetings that the public would be invited to. Unlike a city council meeting where the public actually attends the meeting, we don't have, at school board meetings or retreats, we never really had anybody from the public show up. So you're able still, knowing that, able to have a really open and honest discussion about the norms. So every year we would adopt policies and procedures on one, how would we work with staff? Another is what kind of communication method was most effective for us? How did we want to be communicated with by staff? How did we want to work with each other? What issues did we want to cover collectively? What norms and behavioral procedures did we want to adopt collectively as a group in order to make our team of 5 school board members work closely together with respect and integrity and move forward, knowing that we all come from different backgrounds, as we all do here, knowing that we all have different perspectives and represent very different interests from our district perhaps, but overall we represent the city, and our job is to do the best we can to take care of our communities and our city. So having the opportunity to have those retreats, we don't have that opportunity, but we can have this discussion about it. And when we started out with 6 new council members and 1 new mayor, so 7 new people in their seats, it became clear to me we needed to just kind of level set where we all are on procedural issues, both parliamentary procedure, which I know is going to be part of this, but also how we communicate with each other, how we get things done, how we learn the issues. It's complicated. We all have our different styles. We all process information differently, but at the end of the day, and we all make tough decisions based on our beliefs and our community, but at the end of the day, we must all go forward collectively because that's how we work better. So I just want to leave you with that and think that this is a good opportunity for us to build some collegiality between each other and to move forward collectively.
Great. Thank you, council member. Okay, I'm going to turn things over to Lee to take us through a few exercises.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I have some notes behind me, so I'll be turning back, and we're going to start the presentation. But this is a topic I enjoy very much, actually. So expert is probably a loose term, but thank you, Councilmember Cohen. But I do enjoy this subject very much. Hold on. There we go. So as the mayor and council members stated, we are going to kind of go through some modules today. It's really important that we spend a little bit of time on kind of talking about some of the characteristics of the organization and the environment in which we all work in. It is very different, and I'll talk about that, as well as some of the procedures. I know that sort of when we think procedures, like whenever I have a staff meeting on my side and we need to talk through procedures, it's not my favorite thing. I will say it's incredibly important, especially for you guys being efficient in a meeting. Some of you that are new here, which we'll talk about, a lot of you are new here. Come June and December when we're, having some late meetings or whatever, making decisions at 11:45 isn't the best thing in the world for you guys. It's not great for us. So the efficiency, it's not to stifle any conversation or discussion, but the procedure and efficiency is important. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the norms and the relationships that you guys have with each other and how you want to communicate and work together, but also the ones you have with staff, because those are 2 things that'll make you more successful. Mike, next slide. Okay, so we're going to walk through that. I'm going to do a little bit of kind of the local government context as we walk through this. And after that, we will hand it off to Nora, who's going to be giving the Robert's Rules of Order training. I do want to say just a few things before we start. Government should be held to a higher standard. Accountability, transparency is very important. So I'm going to point out things about the characteristics of this environment and how we work that are difficult. That is no way me saying that we should change our transparency or accountability rules. They're simply to put those out there for you guys to see and understand to help inform your conversation later. So it's not an indictment of, we should be able to make every decision in closed session. By no means am I saying that. I also want to say that, Councilmember Foley sort of mentioned it, but this is kind of a retreat. It is a team building exercise. If we were doing this in administration, it would be up on the tower somewhere and not on TV. If it was a sports team that wanted to figure out, hey, we need to be a little bit better, it would be at halftime with a coach, guys, get your act together or something. It's a very private thing. And that just kind of, illustrates how different this is. There's people watching on TV. There's people in the audience that get to partake in a conversation of how you decide to work together. And I think David said it, it's a governance team. But you guys don't get the opportunity privately to talk about how that team functions. So it's just a very different characteristic. I also would just want to say as we go through the local government context, it's not an attempt for me to tell you how to do your job whatsoever. It's me pointing out the things that I've seen over my career, as well as other experts in the field. And of course, there are some generalizations because every council, any governing board or body is very unique into itself. Next slide, Mike. Next one, sorry. Okay, so this job, you guys don't get a probationary period. You have the first meeting, so you guys need to run really, really fast. Next slide, Mike. For all of you that are new, we actually ordered you 3 different record-breaking atmospheric rivers to take place for your first week in office. So we wanted you guys to learn quickly. And I should say, we talked about that transition a little bit. Only 4 of you returned from the last council in your previous job, meaning 7 of you that are new to your job in this. And I've been here nearly 19 years. That's the biggest transition I've ever seen. It's a rather large transition. In fact, our term limits here are usually, staggered so that doesn't happen. They're staggered in most governing boards so that doesn't happen. So that was a big thing. And so good job for the first 6 months. We spent our first week together, all of you guys, your staff and our staff out at Hank Lopez, walking neighborhoods the first week, doing press conferences, trying to get people out, our unhoused community out of Coyote Creek. That was, we came together in that very first week to do a lot of great things for our community, followed by transitions for all of you. Coming up with a governing agenda as a team, as well as you guys learning a host of different policies on the fly every Tuesday. Next slide. So part of that, and this is really hard, at least on this, to see the red, but also starting in November, December, and in January with the council orientation program. That was a lot of logistics and everything, even moving into the building for some of you, but really the educational component. What is this organization of 7,000 employees, 264 lines of services, and $7 billion? What is it? What do I need to know? And again, that was really focused on the what you need to know, versus today we're going to take a step back and talk about how we do all that together. Next slide, Mike. So the local government context is a unique one that I'm going to spend a little bit of time on. Next slide, Mike. So as we mentioned, we haven't done an exercise like this in a very long time. As Councilmember Foley mentioned and Councilmember Cohen mentioned, a lot of other cities do this. Some of them do them manually. Some school boards, I know, my father-in-law was on the school board. They did it every 6 months. We haven't done one in a while, so it is a good opportunity and something that we can come back to again if we want to. But how we can work effectively together is all about how do we advance the community's interest while navigating this very complex environment that we're about to go through together. Next slide. So effective governance is about working together. It is bridging what is politically viable and what is administratively sustainable. So you're going to hear that. I'm going to say that term quite a bit as we go through this exercise. And part of that is the success of that is clearly defining roles, responsibility, and communications norms. So you guys will talk about your own communication norms, but Jennifer's also going to talk about her communication norms with you as well as senior staff and what that looks like. And those aren't, rules or things that we get in trouble for, but they're unspoken rules or things that we want to abide by and act by. Next slide. With that said, it's really hard to do some of this. According to, what is it? Because I can't see the footnote. National League of Cities, Bloomberg City Leadership Initiative, California League of Cities, University of Kansas, which by the way has a world-renowned public policy institute there. The characteristics of a modernizing local government organization or city hall has a few different things that it needs to be doing. It connects administrative processes to strategic goals. It organizes around problems versus structures. So something we're doing with the cabinets and the focus areas. It conducts performance-based budgeting. It identifies gaps and trains relentlessly for their workforce around those. And then it has a high-performing governing board that collectively addresses difficult public policy problems, builds capacity to work together, and it works on cultivating productive relationships with staff. So those are the things that we're going to try and strive for throughout this session. But realizing there's a lot of challenges that prohibit us from getting here. Next slide. So there's obstacles. And we're going to talk about two of those right away. One is around values, how our values drive policy making, and then the conditions that you work in. And then we'll save the city staff one for later. Next slide. So I think and this is a slide that I could spend like 3 hours on, and don't worry, I won't. Decision making is often viewed as right versus wrong, or correct or incorrect. That's not what you guys do every Tuesday. Political is about balancing values. So in our own, every Tuesday, you guys are in a political conversation, which is balancing these values. And each of you does it very differently because these values mean different things to each of you. Each of you brings something different to this table. And quite frankly, each of you probably show up differently depending on the issue with these values. So, the definition, one of the many definitions of politics is when all problems and facts and data are known and you still have disagreement. And you have disagreement because you're not making all the time a decision based off of facts and data. You are balancing these things. I always say this, who else around the room was political science undergrad? Government, right?
I did interdisciplinary. But
Yeah, government. So just because Councilmember Torres and Councilmember Candelas had a little bit of a go at each other yesterday at the flag raising.
You noticed that?
I did. I enjoyed it very much. This is, in Western, we learned some of this in our, political theory class that we all had to take, but in Western civilization, responsiveness is the greatest value of what our public thinks of us in a democratic society. And underfilling that, or what the community expects as part of responsiveness, is representation, participation, efficiency, social equity, and individual rights. And I will say, this isn't something new. When Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, all the way back when, are arguing like which form of government is most effective for the people or most right, they're trying to figure out what is most responsive to the people. It's a question that everyone has had, that through time, people continue to discuss. So frequently when we talk about values, we're discussing, individual values, honesty, those inform who we are. These are really informing public policy decisions, development of public policy. So just, really quickly, representation. Do the people we're making a decision for, do they have a seat at the table? That continues to be a fight, to this day. I'd like to, Councilmember Foley and I both have daughters that are really into musical theater. This is referenced throughout Hamilton, the play, numerous times. It's what Jefferson and Hamilton are arguing over. Jefferson wanted everyone to have a seat at the table, and Hamilton's saying, are you out of your mind? These people can't be trusted. We need a centralized decision making. Even, through time, this is a constant thing that people talk about and fight for. Efficiency, this is where staff is an awful lot. Trying to use data, trying to make things as efficient as possible for you guys. But that's where, people come in. Are we wasting taxpayer dollars? With social equity, it's not about an individual right, but it's about different neighborhoods, different races. Are we making a decision that will impact one group over another? Are we being equal, or should we be more equitable in this approach? That's kind of where all of that lives. And then individual rights, whether it's property rights or us as a person. This is where ordinances, our city charter, that's where a lot of this lies. So, you guys, I will say, on some decisions on Tuesday that are pretty straightforward, it is probably a, yes or a no, or there's a correct and an incorrect on some of those. But a great majority of the time when you guys are grappling with major policy decisions, you're really trying to balance these amongst yourself as a person, but then you guys as a team as well. One thing to note, it's impossible to have all four of these optimally at one time. There's always trade-offs. So that's where a lot of your discussion is around some of these trade-offs. Next slide. The other thing is your working conditions. You guys have a job like no one else. You don't really have a boss other than the over 100,000 people in each of your district, but that's a different type of relationship. Our mayor gets the wonderful privilege of chairing the meeting, which I don't know if you consider that a privilege sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do see you smile when you ask the vice mayor to step in once in a while. But you also, you guys don't have a job description like many folks, which, is kind of neat sometimes because it's really interesting for us as you guys come into office to see which kind of council member you're going to be, because all of you are so different. The ones that came before you were all so different. But sometimes that's not great either. It's nice to have a little bit of a roadmap. I'm pretty lucky in my job that my boss had the job before me. So there's a little bit of a blueprint for me to follow to make sure, I'm not going way off to the right or left. There's also, at local government, there's not a lot of specialization. So each of you do have some type of background that you guys bring in. So some of you have, expertise in something. I know if there's a real estate item, Councilmember Foley's gonna ask a question that I'm not capable of answering. So thank God we have real estate staff, right? So each of you has something else that you've brought to this, but because of term limits, and also because you guys are in a unique opportunity where you're governing in front of your constituents. You're not driving 2 hours or flying to the other side of the coast. Your constituents, when you run into them at the grocery store or while you're out on a walk, they expect you to know a little bit about everything. So it's not like Councilmember Davis, who's currently how long have you been the chair of Neighborhood Services and Education?
Just this year.
Just this year. And she's been here for quite a while versus, I'm blanking on the name, I looked it up right before, but 6 years ago, he finally left Congress. He was either the chair or vice chair of a congressional committee for 33 years. And it was a foreign relations one. So that's deep expertise. So each of you brings things in, but it's not like you get to chair Neighborhood Services and Education for 20-something years. That just doesn't happen. You guys also have, little professional feedback is the way I'm trying to word this. there's not a lot of, hey, you guys are doing a great job. People come to City Hall when there's problems, right? Like, we get a lot of, you guys get more negative feedback. This needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed. Not an easy environment to operate in. And also, as we've talked about already, every time that we work, it is open. Everyone gets to see you guys work. Next slide. Then the other thing that I think really makes, your environment unique is this shift it has been occurring, but I think it's even occurring much more rapidly in the public policy world. And I would just say, City Hall is a place where people come to grieve, they come to celebrate, they come when they're mad. People know what City Hall is. They know what a mayor and a city council member is. A lot of people don't know necessarily what all the other special districts or other governments may be doing. So they come here. Some of the problems that have emerged over the last several years and that are just growing rapidly are things that are outside of the city's authority sometimes. We don't have full authority to solve that. If you think about some of the crime things that we've been dealing with, or the biggest issue of the day, homelessness, we only have a little bit of those tools to solve that problem. So even if you guys come together as a team on a political vision and agenda for here, there's a whole ecosystem and other folks that we need to work with. And that's really exacerbated in California, given the fragmented nature of local government. And just a fun fact, how many local governments or governing bodies are there in the state of California?
Thousands.
2,000.
4,444. Cities, counties, special districts, school districts, unincorporated areas. So you can take a problem like homelessness or crime where the county is involved, special districts are involved, the courts are involved, and quite frankly, that's separate from just the economy and the culture we live in. It is hard for you guys to come to policy wins or decisions around this because it requires this cross-boundary collaboration that you guys don't necessarily have power over, but your constituents come here and demand change, or they demand accountability from you because City Hall is known, the mayor and the council members are known. So it really does make quite a unique, it makes a very unique working environment for you. And especially with this, we saw over the last 2 years, for some of you who were here, kind of council member Arenas start to figure this out and all of a sudden have these joint meetings with the county. The mayor with possibly PISFIS. Should we be meeting with the county's, crime and justice committee to figure out, the rearrestry and pretrial services? Those are things that, need to be pushed, but are somewhat outside of your control, but you're accountable for it. Next slide. So all of that creates a challenging dynamic, which is why some of these rules and norms that we establish are crucial for us doing work on behalf of the community and you doing work on behalf of the community. So that kind of sets the context and the interesting dynamics that we have. I'm sorry that I went through it really fast, but I think, next slide, we're going to hand it over to Nora to do Robert's Rules of Order, and then we're going to attempt to have some fun with the next exercise.
Thank you, Lee. I was asked by Lee to do a brief presentation on Robert's Rules of Order, which is under the council's policy, the rules that you follow for your meetings, the rules of conduct that the city, that's a council policy. I recognize that this information is fairly basic. It's intended to be. It's really setting up the next exercise. And I also recognize that many of you have a lot more experience with this than I do even, and there's a range of experience with using Robert's rules. There are a number of reasons for parliamentary procedures, and that's what Roberts is. I'm going to just highlight a few of them. One of the reasons, the primary reason truly, is to facilitate the conduct of meetings and help the council to work as a deliberative body. Another reason is to provide structure that helps the council. It's true for all meetings and all boards and all deliberative groups, but focusing on the council, it provides a structure that helps you hear different viewpoints among your colleagues, policy considerations, and then ultimately to come to a decision. It also allows the council, and while this isn't always easy, to focus on a particular issue, one at a time, and work on that single issue until there's a resolution. It gives you the necessary discipline to reach a resolution on that particular issue and not be bouncing all over the map. Then it also means that everyone is heard, and that includes those that have what might be considered minority views, but you have your chance to express yourself and express your views in a structured way. Mike, can you go to the next slide for me? Thanks. How the council does its business is governed by Roberts, but also a lot of it is governed by the Brown Act. The Brown Act dictates how agendas are structured. Most of the agenda items that come to you require an action by the council. It's not just to give you a check-in. A lot of that is done at the committee level, at the council level. Most of the time, you're being asked to take an action. Motions are how the council acts as a deliberative body. It's how you make your decisions. So once you're recognized by the chair, and in our case, it's the mayor, unless somebody is sitting in for him, any council member can make a motion. Our council often discusses items for a while before a motion is made. That's not necessary. It's a little bit of the reverse of perhaps how Roberts is structured, so that a motion is made first and then you have the discussion. But you usually have a staff memo, a recommendation, all those kinds of things. And so it's an opportunity to air your thoughts. And again, under the Brown Act, you're supposed to be having your discussions in public. You can't have a majority of you already making your mind up and talking about an item before you're out here on the dais. And then obviously motions must be seconded to be considered. Without a second, the motion doesn't go forward. And somebody else can make a motion, but you do have to have a second. And each motion must be resolved before moving to the next motion, with the exception of a substitute motion. And everyone must vote in San Jose under the council rules of procedure and under the charter. You don't have the opportunity to abstain unless you have a conflict. So it's a yes or no, and our new equipment, you have a yes or no button and nothing else. So that can be challenging sometimes. I think we all recognize that for council members. The next slide. So once you're recognized by the chair, it's your opportunity to have your say, but also make a motion if you want. To make a motion, and this is important, and I'm including this because it's important for the clerk to get the motions down correctly. A rambling statement about what you're maybe trying to achieve in a motion can be confusing to your colleagues, and it can be particularly difficult for the clerk who's got to write the minutes. So we sometimes have to go back and watch with the clerk's office, my office, exactly what were we doing? Because it can get confused sometimes. So to the extent it can be clear, it's very helpful, both to your colleagues, but also to the minute process and the record that's being created. So to make a motion, you say, I move, followed by what your motion is. So I move the staff recommendation. I move the staff recommendation and something that was perhaps part of a discussion that you heard, or a memo that one of the council members had included. So that's the process, just to get a clear motion on the table. The chair will then ask if there's a second, or a second might be forthcoming before there's even a question. Somebody might just say second. So now we've got the motion established. You're familiar with this process because over the last 6 months, you've certainly seen it in play. For those of you who are new, and for those of you who've been on the council for a while, you've lived with it. The council typically, if someone wants to make an amendment, they'll call it a friendly amendment and ask for a change to the motion. The person who made the motion can consider the requested change and accept it if they want to. It then has to be approved also by the seconder, the person who made the second. But it doesn't have to be accepted. And if it's not accepted, the motion will move forward as it was originally put on what we call on the table. Or a substitute motion can be made by a council member. An amendment has to be really pretty close to the original motion, maybe just a clarification or something. A substitute motion is a completely different motion. It will also require a second. Once it's seconded, then that becomes the motion under discussion, and the council will then debate that motion and reach a resolution. If it's approved, the original motion then goes away. If it is not approved, go back to the original motion. So I think the important lesson out of this, or the thing to take to heart, is when you're making your motions, try to be as clear as possible and do what you can to make them clear.
Can I just ask a question about the amendment?
Mm-hmm.
We have a procedure that we always ask for a friendly amendment,
Mm-hmm.
but isn't it possible to, if the friendly amendment is not accepted, the maker of the amendment could make a motion as amending the motion if they get a second, and it's not then a second of the person who made the main motion? So in other
Correct.
words, I have the main motion, he seconded my main motion, Councilmember Torres, sorry. I was gonna call you by your first name and I knew I shouldn't do that, sorry about that. He asks me a friendly amendment, I say no. He can then say,
I want to amend.
I want to
Yes.
amend, and then Councilmember Dwan seconds it.
Yes,
Now that is the
correct.
main motion with the amendment.
Correct.
Am I correct with that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. There's that
But we don't
process.
do that, not to confuse everybody, but there is a procedure if you wanted to do that.
Yes, it's,
Well, it's not the same as a
It's not a
substitute, and I
sub-
actually want
It's
to,
not,
I think,
no.
I want to make this point.
yeah, it's not.
Substitute, in my opinion, substitute should be a rarity. Substitute is done when when the main motion is so far different than what you're trying to do that you need to change, and it's appropriate in times, and we do it a lot in this council, but, in many bodies I've been on, it almost never happens. What does happen more often that we don't do is propose an amendment to the main motion, which then gets discussed and voted on, yes or no. Do we want to amend the main motion? And the underlying motion is still on the table. So you haven't, in a sense, thrown out the main motion. You've just said, I want to make a change to that. So rather than substituting the main motion, the discussion will be on, do we prefer version A of the main motion or version B of the main motion? And the main motion remains. If the amendment gets approved by the majority, then that changes the main motion. You go back to it. If it if the majority doesn't want to amend the main motion, then the main motion still stands. And I think that's in my
right.
opinion, that's a preferable process.
Me
And I guess
too.
we haven't done that as a council, so I'm
Right.
just wondering, is there some kind of feeling that we have that the substitute motion is just cleaner and simpler, or do we?
It in some ways is cleaner and simpler as you're trying to go through and figure out what the motion is. It is more of a custom in the council to do friendly amendments, and if they're accepted, great. If not, but you're correct, council member, both of you, that an amendment to the motion can be made in the process that was just described. Probably the best example of that is someone makes a motion, and let's say they want to approve the staff recommendation, and item B in a particular council member's memo that added some things to the recommendation. And then the request for an amendment to the motion would be, I'd like to add C also. Will you agree to that? And if the maker of the original motion says, no, I really didn't want to include C, I was very specific about just B, that could be done as an amendment to the motion, and then there is a vote on that, and then you discuss it. It is appropriate under Robert's Rules of Order, and probably isn't a substantial enough distinction to constitute a substitute motion, but sometimes in the context of the discussion and making sure that everyone is clear on what the motion is, it's handled as a substitute. But they're absolutely correct in terms of an amendment. If you don't get a friendly amendment, then you can make a motion to amend the motion and go down that route. And oftentimes in that case, it'll be where we are in terms of motions will be reiterated by the mayor or the chair of the meeting so that everybody's on the same page.
Not to go down a rabbit hole on all the amendment thing, but so if the amendment is made and seconded, then the discussion becomes around the amendment. We then vote on the amendment, and then we vote on the main motion as amended. So there's a couple of votes in there, but one is the amendment first, and so the debate should be around the amendment and not the main motion, because we're debating only on what we're voting on, which is in that case the amendment. Not to go too technical on it, but I realize I just went too technical, so sorry.
And you can understand why sometimes it's hard to reconstruct as you go down these various paths. It can be difficult to reconstruct in terms of the minutes what happened. And so that's why clarity always is very helpful. And I think why, in some ways, this council has gone through the friendly amendment phase to see what can happen to a main motion and try to keep the sub-motions from proliferating, if you will. But they're absolutely correct, an amendment to a motion is appropriate as a substitute motion. And both will take precedent over the underlying motion and have to be voted on first. Next slide. Mike? Okay, question, sure.
Your statement there, when recognized by the chair and usually after making comments,
Mm-hmm.
Is the preference that the comments be made at that point in time, or you're saying the ideal is to make the motion and then make the comments? So either is acceptable. Which one is preferred?
Either is acceptable. I think as our council discussions evolve, people are talking about something before there is a motion, and so oftentimes people want to get their reasoning in before they make their motion, but you can make the motion and then provide your reasoning. And as long as the motion is clear and doesn't get lost in the discussion, you can do it either way. Technically, as I say, under Robert's rules, you get a motion and that's what the council debates. But we have very detailed agendas and staff reports and recommendations and everything else, and a lot of bodies don't have those kinds of that much information on their agendas.
Okay, I'll just make another comment on that. I apologize for delaying this, but I think this is an important slide, actually. The way Robert's Rules is written is you're supposed to have a motion first before anyone talks, and you're not supposed to be speaking unless there's a motion. But We have changed that in our body, and I think it's the right thing to do. We have 11 people with a lot of memos that often are put on the table with a lot of different opinions, and it's sometimes hard for somebody, the first speaker, to make a motion without hearing everybody saying, this is why my memo is important. And I actually appreciate the fact that we do it this way, that we kind of take that feedback. And so if somebody jumps early and makes a motion, that while that's certainly appropriate and follows the rules, that may miss some valuable discussion and then leads to having to do amendments later. So there's some value, I think, in allowing some round of conversation before a motion is made in many instances. Now, it's clear that some issues are so simple. There's a staff recommendation. We're probably going to approve it. I might want to make some comments, and I'll make a motion right away. But when we were discussing the budget, and there's so many different memos and things, I think there is value in hearing what the will is before making that motion. I just want to lay that point out.
Yes. And another, I think, convention of our councils in the past and certainly probably today, some items are specific to a district, and there's often just a deference to that council member. If it's something that affects the district, to let that district council member make the motion and bring it forward. That's just more of a courtesy than a necessity, but it's also become a bit of convention in San Jose. So, okay, and then the next slide. What can be done with a motion in addition to approving the staff recommendation, which I think is probably often music to the staff's ear? You can do some other things. You might want more community outreach. You might be hearing a lot of things that are giving you pause, or maybe you don't think is completely fleshed out in a staff recommendation, or the item's been brought forward. We have to agendize things so in advance of a council meeting that you begin to hear things from the community. So one of the things you might want to do is make a motion requesting that staff do particular outreach, some additional outreach, but you need to be specific. And so you might say, I move to defer this to a particular date. Usually that would be in conjunction with some input from the city manager on when to bring it back. But I want to defer this item to a particular date, and then a particular type of outreach. What else you would like to hear, and who else you think should be have a chance to hear from staff and have staff converse with them. So that's sometimes neighborhoods, that's sometimes a group that's come to council and been pretty upset about something, and you just want to close the loop. As Lee says, transparency is so important in local government. So that's one way to handle an item that maybe isn't clear. Your council members may not agree with you, but it is a way to, it is a motion that can be made. Councilmember Torres?
So I was actually going to be waiting for the council norms and discussion, because I don't know if that's where we're going to talk about the agenda or not. But now that we're here for the more time to study proposal, move to postpone to a definite time or date, I think my colleague to my right and my left, Batra and Councilmember Duan, have motioned to table things. Would that be done at orders of the day, or would it have been better if they had done this, move to postpone, definite time or date?
Yeah, orders of the day, if something's just going to not be brought forward, is a good place for it. Orders of the day also, if there's probable consensus on something needing more study or needing to be brought back, it can be done there. If, as the discussion is going on and there just seems to be a lot of concern, confusion, maybe information that's lacking as the discussion has evolved, then it can be done at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on orders of the day, if we really do want something to be tabled, that's where we can bring it up. We can bring it up and say, like, hey, item 6.3, I'm just saying that because 6.3 was the most recent one. Item 6.3, during orders of the day, can we motion to table it? That's, move to table it.
Tabling is not the proper.
It's,
word.
yeah, it's
Tabling
not
is being
tabling.
Or move to
Defer.
postpone it to a definite time or date.
Yeah, or
All right.
defer it to.
And then, I
different-
mean, of course, I'm not calling out my colleagues, but this is
Yeah.
just for all of us, because,
Mhm.
there's been moments, even myself, where we like, oh, I don't know too much about this item yet, and maybe I want more information about it with city staff. But,
Usually with orders of the day, there are different voting and requirements and things like that, but sometimes people are working with the administration and raising questions and some issues, and the administration might also want to move a date because issues have been brought up. But I think,
so when we get to sorry to cut you
yeah.
off, Nora. So
Yeah,
when
no,
we get
that's
to
fine.
item 6.3,
mhm,
that's when we can say, move to postpone
Yes.
to a definite time or date. All right.
That's
yeah, that's,
Usually better. I
that's a
That's-
better time, unless
better
there,
time.
Unless there was some
there's-
consensus ahead of time, usually
Yeah.
it's because staff says, we're not ready, there's something missing, we realize it's not done, they ask for it to be deferred, or it's been sort of, there's been a clear feeling. That one was an unusual situation where people thought it was the right thing to do on orders of the day, but it probably should have been done the other way.
Right.
Bring it
Mhm.
forward, have the conversation, and then move to postpone. And
No, of course, I'm not just
But-
choosing 6.3.
No, I'm just saying, but
There's been a
it's
few.
typically, very
Yeah.
rarely as order of the day have
Yeah, but
something that will be
that's the most-
debated about whether or not to defer or not. Usually, it's a pretty straightforward.
Usually,
Yeah.
the administration is requesting that we move it to this date in order to do X, Y, Z. It's
Yeah.
usually
And-
pretty clear cut.
Yeah, and sometimes there are concerns. It might be item 8.2 on the agenda, and people are gonna be, that there's a lot of community interest, and people are gonna be sitting there for 3 hours, 4 hours, and is it fair to make them sit only to have the motion be, let's put this over? So that's a consideration sometimes, but it is usually better as the discussion evolves, or if there are concerns that you're hearing, to do it as a motion.
Okay.
And then the last one I'll just talk about is just calling the question. That requires a 2/3 vote.
With the
and-
second.
With a second, yeah. And then there's no debate. It's just, it's appropriate if there's been a lengthy discussion and you're just sort of going around and around and around and everybody's saying the same thing.
I just want to add that a call for the question also takes priority, that the debate stops for a moment while we then vote on calling for the question.
Yeah.
Which requires the 2/3 vote. So it's, no, we don't debate calling for the question, we just vote on it.
Yeah.
Nora, since Councilmember Torres brought it up, tabling is very different.
Yes.
When you table something, it's very specific, and I don't know if you just want to mention what that is, so that we're all on the same page. It is not just to defer, it is to take it off the table
Right.
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
Yes, and that, because of the noticing procedures and the Brown Act and a lot of other things, council doesn't very often just table things. It'll usually get sent to a committee, perhaps send it to the committee for more study or things like that. But that is a type of motion, yes. And I've left it in my office, but I have a cheat sheet for all of you, and I will send it to you, just giving you a sense of what the motions are, and you can
Right.
just keep it in your council book. So,
Is there a typo on the agenda? It says Rosenberg Rules of Order. Should it have been Roberts Rules of Order?
well, Rosenberg's is a relaxed version of Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh.
A lot of the committees use Rosenberg's. The council, under the rules of conduct, uses Roberts. There's not a whole lot of difference, but Rosenberg's is a easier format in a lot of ways and less technical. And a lot of city councils have adopted that, but right now, the council at least is under Roberts.
Thank you, Nora. So we're gonna do a quick exercise, and you guys gotta practice this every Tuesday, so this one will be a little bit different, we're gonna have some fun. The premise is, I already know December 19th, which is our last meeting of the year. It's gonna be a late one. So we'll all end up in the green room having dinner. So we're gonna try and order dinner. So I'm gonna relieve our chair and our mayor so that he can just participate. I'll act as chair. And because they will be eating with you, Jennifer and Nora get to live out their fantasy of being able to vote with you as well. So they are voting members in this exercise. Yeah, watch out.
Lee, is this a binding decision?
Well, I was going to ask, we didn't agendize it that way, but if you wanted to influence your ordering decision, absolutely. So I'm going to make a recommendation to you. So I'm going to recommend that we direct the clerk to order sandwiches for December 19th, 2023 council meeting. City Manager McGuire.
I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation with the following changes. Order the sandwiches from Ike's down the street. All sandwiches must have 0 mustard. Food must be delivered at 5 p.m.
Second.
Okay, I think I saw Nora's hand first, and then Peter.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a substitute motion to reject the staff's recommendation. Personally, I'd prefer to have non-animal, a non-animal order, but I know that that's just a personal preference. However, there are people who have health issues, and I think we ought to be ordering dinner from El Pollo Loco because it's better for gluten-free people. And given that that really is a health issue for people and not just a preference about mustard, I think that's what we should do. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion on the floor already. You had your hand raised,
Too late. I was
Councilmember.
going to substitute for Chinese food, but
How many,
Like
how
that
many
hand?
substitutes
yeah, I was
can
going
we
to
have?
say Taiwan.
Oh,
from
yeah,
Lincoln
how
Ave.
Yeah.
Wait,
Let's
that's
do
good.
it.
All right, well, unfortunately, we do have a substitute motion on the floor that needs to be discussed.
Wait, can there be a substitute to the substitute?
No.
To the
No.
substitute? Okay.
So we have to
Actually,
debate
that wasn't mentioned before.
and discuss what's on the floor and vote on that before we go back to the original one, if that fails.
I want the Chinese food.
I don't. Doesn't sound like we have a lot of
So-
discussion on this.
I did make the second on the substitute motion just so we could discuss it, but frankly, I find both the substitute motion and the underlying motion unacceptable because I don't like bread and I don't want sandwiches one way or the other, and I'd rather go to Taiwan or some other restaurant and weigh in there. But so I intend to vote against the substitute motion, and I intend to vote against the underlying motion.
Councilmember Torres.
I do also hope that my colleagues vote down both motions because Taiwan is delicious and so is Chinese food. So
I can't believe you guys don't want the churros. That baffles me. Councilmember Davis.
So I didn't know that Councilmember Ortiz was not only going to choose something that was gluten-free, but also a small business from my district. So I am also in favor of voting down both the substitute motion and the original motion, and hoping that Councilmember Ortiz will make a new motion when those have both been voted down.
Anyone else? There is a substitute motion on the floor that is.
I'd like to call for the question.
second.
All right, so now we need to vote. I was going to get us there. So now,
Now we have to vote on that.
this is where the mayor's much better. So now I believe we have to vote on calling the question, which requires a 2/3 for this exercise. I'm just going to ask for hands. Who is okay with calling the question? Jennifer and Nora are defiant on this. That's great. I love it.
Those sandwiches.
All right, well, motion passes. So we are on the substitute motion of El Pollo Loco chicken for December 19th council meeting. All those in favor? All those against? Okay, so now we have one motion, which is back to Ike sandwiches with 0 mustard at 5 p.m.
I'd like to propose a friendly amendment. I think we should have half with mustard and half without, so those of us who like mustard can have mustard on our sandwiches. Would you accept that friendly amendment?
I will
Although
accept
I did
that.
second the motion. I'm the seconder, so I guess I accept my.
Well, actually, let me ask you a question, council member, colleague. Would you consider us just putting the mustard on the side and not in any sandwich?
Okay, I think that's a fair compromise.
Okay, I will accept that friendly amendment.
Any other discussion on Ike's before we vote?
All right, can you
Councilmember
give
Batra.
can you give an amendment to an amended
Yeah.
motion?
Yes, you may.
Many amendments as you want.
Yeah, I request a friendly amendment that we make sure we have vegetarian sandwich with mustard.
So just adding vegetarian, and that mustard would not be on the side, it would be on the sandwich. Is that correct?
Oh, no, it can be on the side.
Okay.
Available, mustard available, mustard available.
Okay, so we will include vegetarian sandwiches with our order. That, I will accept that friendly amendment.
And it's okay with me, the seconder.
Thank you.
Jennifer's trying to whip some votes. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, those in favor?
I'm voting aye.
All right, those against? Okay, so we're back to the original recommendation from staff. Councilmember Ortiz.
I would like to make a motion that for December. For December 19th, 2023, that we purchase dinner for council members from Taiwan restaurant on Lincoln Avenue.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? City Manager McGuire.
Councilmember colleague, would you please consider a friendly amendment?
Sure, depending on what that is.
Yes. Would you have some of the dishes be vegetarian?
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay, thank you so much.
Is that all right with the seconder?
Is that all right with the seconder?
I'm gonna give my second to Dev because that's her district. But yes, absolutely, we can have vegetarian.
Any other discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor of Councilmember Ortiz's? All right.
It's the
All
first
those
unanimous
against?
vote I've gotten on this council.
All you need to do is Chinese food.
Yeah.
Maybe that will be.
Taiwan. Did
This
you make
always
note
ends
of
up being
that?
kind of a.
I literally wrote notes.
Oh,
Mustard on the side.
McGuire.
So I just wanted to point out a few things from that exercise. That's always a fun exercise. And there's, depending, I will say almost every single council meeting that's running late, by 4:45, there's a lot of discussion. What do you think Tony's ordering? So it's an important issue for some of us. Sometimes Dev and I are trying to figure out who's going to order Poke Bowls. So I want to point out some of the things that went wrong in that. So, with Jennifer's motion, kind of to Councilmember Cohen's point earlier, she came right out of the gate. She just threw it out. So she didn't have any context from any of you to go ahead and make that motion. She didn't know that Councilmember Davis might want Poke Bowls. She didn't know that Councilmember Candelas loves Grey Poupon and really wants the mustard, right? So, but what was interesting towards the end of that exercise, after Councilmember Ortiz spoke, everyone started saying, well, we can't talk about it, but I'm very interested in that. So sometimes a little bit of discussion is really helpful in finding some common ground. The motion too for Jennifer, it was, I'd like to make a motion. But she didn't actually move it. It's, I move staff recommendation. You don't like it, you move it. So that's very important. And same with Nora, she did the same thing. I'd like to make a motion. But she didn't technically move it, she just liked it. And it was very admirable motion to like, but she didn't move it. The other thing too is, just if I can lobby you all for 1 second, Jennifer's motion was uber specific about why did it need to be 5 o'clock? Like maybe we were going to do public comment on something. Let Tony figure that out. And then also specific to mustard, which Jennifer has a mustard thing. So. And then same with Nora's. There's sometimes there's a lot of power for you guys working together in a conversation. So, Nora was really worried about the gluten-free with the bread, but she came to a solution on her own. She didn't say, you know what, I'm not opposed to sandwiches, but I'm really worried about some of our gluten-free colleagues and staff that are gonna be eating with us. And giving Jennifer the opportunity, okay, well, yeah, I hear you. You know, obviously she was very accommodating for mustard on the side with Councilmember Cohen and some stuff, but she didn't get the opportunity to actually work with Nora. So those are some things kind of in that exercise that we like to point out that just help you guys find some common ground. And I will say that, you know, watching you guys over the last, you know, now 7 or 8 months, when you guys have done that, when there's been some conversation on some complicated stuff and then motions, it's actually helped you. And I will say, I am not ignorant that there's gamesmanship with the motions. Totally understand that. That's your job to do. But when you guys don't know where each other are at and you're trying to find common ground, just remember some of those things. Like it is healthy to ask staff questions before there's a motion out on the table, or ask yourselves questions. You know, I've seen Councilmember Davis and Cohen do that a few times. Hey, I'm not sure what you really meant on this. What does this mean? And trying to seek to understand. So those are helpful things as we kind of, you know, go through this exercise together. The other thing is, you know, what Nora went over, as I already said before, efficiency is going to be an important thing. Obviously, last Tuesday and this coming Tuesday, there's only one item, so, you know, that's not a big deal. But come December, when there's gonna be land use, there will be larger things. No matter how hard we try as an administration and how hard the Rules Committee tries, that's just something that's baked into the fabric of this building. They're gonna be long meetings, so it's good for you guys to be efficient. The other thing that I can't strive enough, which all of you have said, is the accuracy of your motion. So the thing that I did wrong, I didn't repeat the motion back, the last one that was on the table. I just said, let's vote. Tony's got a really hard job in trying to capture some of those motions. So being able to restate a motion or be very accurate about it and work as a team are gonna be really important, especially on those things where you're asking for more information to come back. There's a lot of times, just to call them out, that Peter and I are rewatching the meeting several times, you know, with the attorneys or the clerk's office, just to kind of figure out, okay, what really happened? Because we want to be able to meet your expectation when we come back. So those are just some things to think about through that. So we're going to move on to council norms. So some of you have asked what council norms are. There are a bunch of different things. We've, you know, compiled a list for you guys to kind of look at. They're from a lot of other cities, some management theory or public administration guidelines. But they're basically shared values that establish, you know, kind of common expectations. You know, there's some ones, the last council, especially during the online meetings, voted for a time limit. They actually voted for it and kind of adopted that, and that was sort of an unspoken norm before, but it became a very, you know, actual rule before. But there's a lot of ways to look at this, and a lot of different things that are going to be important to some of you, and these things will change and evolve too. Say our previous city manager, Deb Fagoni, a long time ago, you know, said there's way more power in the conversation, and I would say the same goes for this exercise. It's not necessarily like what goes up on a wall or whatever happens. You guys discussing this is really where the conversation is. So with that said, I do want to say the way we were going to do this similar to when we did the racial equity study session.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, before we get into the exercise, I know we're all learning the new system. When you request to speak, please don't press the 2 hands. There's 2 buttons, and if you press the 2 hands, you automatically go to the front of the line. So if there's a long queue, for those of us who patiently wait,
I'm hoping only few of us would know that.
Yeah.
well, I'm just saying that it's very easy to press, you know, because there's 2 buttons, right? So I'm waiting, and I'm thinking, when's my name coming up? And so I know I've been paying attention, so I know who's been pressing that button.
Ooh.
So
I'm the only one you sit by.
Why are you turning red, David?
No. So I just am requesting as part of the norms, don't press the 2 hands unless it's an emergency.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
add that to the norms.
That should be a norm.
So we're
Don't
going
push 2
to,
hands.
we're going to be able to talk about some of these norms. So we have one down there already. I did not know. I know the new system, we could request coffee and tea that does not come to us. I did not know we could do that. So, no, yeah. So I want to give the council an opportunity here. Originally, I was going to have us break into small groups. That's still what I would propose. This is what we did with the racial equity study session. And we would do a report out. So my intent was to break you guys up for 5 to 10 minutes so that you guys could have a conversation in smaller groups, and then each person would kind of report out on what the group said, the 3 or 4 things that were important to that group, and we would write that down. However, when you guys break into small groups, anyone here can come and listen. It's a public meeting. We as a city don't have enough equipment or the technical ability, since we're offering this in a hybrid format, to have all 3 groups videotaped and have different channels. So there are a few people online that would not have the advantage of listening to the small group discussion. So if the council wishes, we can stay here and do this exercise as a whole group. But as staff has laid it out and how we've done this in other cities, we would break you up for a quick 5 to 10 minutes to have those discussions. So with that, I'm happy to proceed however you guys would like.
Would anyone like to make a motion
Yeah, it's stay here.
as a group?
Yeah, because I received several emails from the community asking that we don't break it up because of that, not having the capability that they could watch whichever group they wanted to. So they would like us to stay together, and I respect that community's desire.
I would second that.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'm just, I'm
Can
gonna
you
suggest,
restate the motion, please?
Motion is to stay together in this
I
room. So I move the motion.
No,
Thank
I
you.
move.
move that
I
we-
not I move the motion. I
I
move to.
I move that we stay in one group.
To stay in this room together and not break it up into the 3 rooms so that the community can watch the activity.
Second.
Councilor Cohn.
I mean, I don't know that it matters tremendously, but I'm gonna suggest that I think that these kind of conversations happen more productively in a small group of 3 people. Being able to just sort of be together and quickly say, these are the things that are most important to me, because in a big group, we have to wait for our turn, and we might not be able to do the back and forth that might be more productive. I think we would gain a lot by breaking out and then coming back and having us say, well, these are the 3 things that we think are the most important norms, and we probably will have more on the table that way than we would have in the bigger group, is my opinion, but. So, I mean, you know,
Do we have other
as I try to do, I want to listen to other people's input and see what, before I just put in a substitute. I mean, I'm curious about what other people think, but I think that small group, yeah, I understand the public nature. We'll be in groups of 3. There's no Brown Act requirement that people hear what the group of 3 is saying. Secondly, in the way people do training and brainstorming, the Brown Act shouldn't be a hindrance to good training methodology, in my opinion. And if it becomes that way, then we're hamstringing ourselves to maybe less optimal outcomes. So while the Brown Act's important and transparency is important, it doesn't necessarily trump every time the benefits that you can get from small discussions.
And just to clarify too, there's not a Brown Act violation with going into small groups as long as they're reporting out.
Right, and we would be reporting out afterwards. Yeah.
Councilor Davis.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Cohen. I think we're going to be reporting out anyway. I don't think that every single syllable I say needs to be heard by the public, and nor do I think the public really wants to hear every single syllable I say. And that's what I think the small groups just allow us to kind of get our wording correct and really bounce ideas off of each other. We do that all the time in each other's offices, and we don't have cameras in there, at least not to my knowledge. And that's kind of what we're talking about. That's what we would be talking about in these small groups, just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. So I think we should do it that way as opposed to in a large group.
Yeah.
I mean, look how long it took us to order dinner, you guys.
Yeah. I agree.
Came out to a good outcome though.
Then I'll make the
There you
substitute
go.
motion to break into the groups. We'll give two groups of 3 and 1 group of 4.
Second.
Okay, great. Unless anybody else has a burning desire to weigh in, why don't we vote on the substitute motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. We'll be breaking into small groups.
Okay, we're gonna break into small groups. So we will put it back on the slide with all the norms so you can see that. You are not limited to that list whatsoever. There's also an attachment that you had in the packet with various ideas. Again, those are just best practices. They're not recommendations. And then the groups. We're gonna have the mayor, Councilmember Torres, and Candelas over here. We will have Councilmember Davis, Councilmember Ortiz, and Batra here. And then we will have Councilmember Foley here. That's the group of 4. And then another group of 3 will have Councilmember Cohen, Dewan, and Vice Mayor Kamei here. And so I'll put a timer on for 10 minutes, and we will come back as a group.
did you leave your agenda? No. Oh, maybe I did. No, I've got the agenda. No, I have the agenda. Somebody's. So I don't know. I mean, I realize. It might be, is it the mayor? It's vice mayor. It might be.
You said it wasn't hers.
Oh, cause, oh, she does have it.
All right.
It's somebody,
So it looks like some of you had some fun with that one.
I've got somebody's agenda with their notes on it that was in my seat.
Oh, no.
With a pen. Who's missing that? Anybody?
Oh, the cheat sheet, okay. It says I don't like that. Probably good,
Oh, it's probably Peter's.
Okay, it's somebody's. Okay.
So we're gonna do a report out. We're gonna start with group one on my piece of paper, which it looked like it was the more lively group. So Mayor, Councilmember Candelas, and Torres, who's gonna report out for you guys on the norms you discussed?
Oh.
Is that Councilmember Torres?
The loud one was elected to report out, and as you can see in the back, we have respect, obviously, for each other.
Ooh, make sure you
Respect-
talk into the microphone.
Yeah.
You can take that with you.
Respect for each other, respect each other's time, respect differences and statements, right? Whether they're opinions, facts, and we're living in an era of non-facts, right? Or alternative facts, I don't know how you want me to word it, but the other one is come prepared, right? Know what, read the memos, read the staff recommendations, right? And then the other one, I just wanted to be sassy and I put stop being redundant. And they agreed with it, so. So.
Okay, Mayor and Councilmember Candelas, anything that the council member missed?
Yeah, no, but like the big one we talked about that spent the bulk of our time was respect, because the underlying theme that kept coming up was, okay, respect can mean a lot of things. It's how we engage in dialogue with one another. It's how we engage in dialogue with, or it's how we begin debate and how we interact, not just with each other, but with staff. When we have questions, when we have pointed questions, and we're very passionate people, and we obviously care about the issues, or else we wouldn't be here. But sometimes, you know, our passion bleeds into, you know, things that could be seen as, you know, crossing that gray area into the gray area of disrespect. And so we made it very clear amongst us three that we should be very, very cognizant of putting respect at the forefront of how we come to the dais and how we engage with one another, how we engage with staff before the meeting as well as during the meeting, because that's important. Read your packets, because we all spend late nights after the community meetings, after meetings with staff, reading the very lengthy staff memorandums that I know take hours and weeks to prepare. So when you ask, when you come to the dais, make sure that you are actually prepared and you're asking questions that are respectful of each other's time.
Great. Mayor, anything to add?
I think you covered it. I mean, the only small thing I would add on come prepared is just trying to come into the meeting with a game plan, knowing which issues you really care about, and ideally having reached out to staff if you have concerns, if you have questions. A 30-minute meeting with the appropriate professional staff person can save a lot of time and heartache later in the meeting. But I think we covered it. We spent a lot of time talking about respect. It's good.
Yeah. Excellent points. And we're going to talk about the staff involvement, especially before meetings in the next section. But I would just say, too, on that, especially on some of those agendas, there's a lot of stuff. And so you obviously need to be prepared, but you can pick a few items to do deeper dives in, the one that's going to affect your district more, the ones where those values really align with what we talked about. You don't need to be an expert in every single one of those.
Yeah.
Some of those packets are quite thick. Yeah. So group 2, Councilmember Davis, Ortiz, Batra, and Foley. And I think Councilmember Davis is doing the report out.
I am doing the report out. To that point, though, before I start on ours about being prepared and reading the packets, for the new council members who haven't been delegating some of that stuff to your staff and having them give you notes, I highly recommend it. We individually don't have to be experts on everything, but having staff members who have taken a deeper dive into every one of those things can be helpful in helping save your own time, but also developing the staff. And that's part of what I think we're also there to do, since we all have, many of us have some very young staff, so it can be helpful for everyone. We also had a lot of discussion about respect, and we wanted to get specific about refraining from personal attacks. And there's a little bit of just honestly some things that have happened recently, and really wanting to say, please don't throw your colleagues under the bus, whether you're doing that on the dais or whether you're doing that in the press. There's some hard feelings about that, I'm just gonna be honest. And I'm not the only one who feels that way, and I've been hearing it a lot on the 18th floor as well. So just wanted to point that out and really say that one of the things we also said was building relationships with colleagues is something that we value, and we'd like it to be a norm. We're kind of running out of space, so I'm skipping around a little bit because that was a thread throughout our entire discussion. We also agreed, please stay on topic when you're discussing things on the dais, especially sticking to the specific item that's on the agenda. So we may be discussing homelessness, we may be discussing interim shelters, but let's only be talking about interim shelters and not get off topic, even if it's on the topic of homelessness, because we can kind of get off the discussion and then we don't actually get to what we were voting on that day. Please assume good intent and debate issues, not motives. That's one thing. It was on the list, and we really wanted to highlight that we want, frankly, not to be emulating a lot of what we see happening at the federal level. We don't want to emulate that. We want to be clear that our norms here on the council are much more collegial and much more about building relationships than about pointing fingers and throwing verbal bombs at each other. Be a good listener, and also we did have a lot of talk about being prepared as well, but also listening to the presentations and not asking questions for things that staff has already covered. Also being respectful of staff and really watching your language when you're talking and asking questions of staff or making points, and assuming good intent of staff as well. And then respecting diverse perspectives. We all come from not only different districts, but different backgrounds, and really that kind of goes along with being a good listener and hearing perspectives that you might not have thought of. So those were the things that we really wanted to pull out as norms for our entire group.
That's great. Anyone from that group? Councilmember Foley wants to?
Did a great job.
Did a great job.
Group 2, you guys are good?
Yeah.
All right. Group 3, Councilmember Cohen, Dewan, and Vice Mayor Kamei.
Okay. But then I have to turn my head to everybody, away from everybody. So, I mean, I think we have some similar themes. I don't know that I need to repeat. I mean, the treating others with respect and assuming good intent. You know, I used to actually have this conversation with people a while ago. I'm not sure that holds true anymore in our national politics, but I used to always say, I assume that everybody who's elected got elected for the right reasons, meaning that they all wanted to do what's good for their community, even if I don't agree with what they think is good for the community. So as long as I always thought, well, they have good motives, then I can work with them. Like I said, I'm not so sure that that's true about everybody anymore, but I hope that, I think it's true of everybody here. Being informed, I think we've heard that already. Focus on issues, not person, we've seen that one. And the respectful of time. I actually really like having respect as an overall thing with the different things under it, and that covers a lot of what we've talked about. So I think that our themes are pretty similar to what we've heard. I do like keeping in mind the last one, though, that was on that, when the bus stop being redundant too, which just means, I think more than that, just being mindful of the fact that we don't all have to say the same thing if we all agree, and that goes back to the respect for each other's time. I think that if we think about respecting time, we ought to be, we all like to often make comments, but we should be brief if we're not saying something really new, because that's how we, respect the time of everybody in the room and get through things in a manner where we're not going to be resentful of sitting there too long. And then I was also I also really like the build relationships part. I think we ought to have that as a norm, whatever comes out of this, because I hear stories about past councils that used to go out for drinks after a meeting or get to know each other and feel, and I think that goes a long way to that respect piece if we actually know each other better. So.
That's great. Thank you. A lot of overlap and similar feelings kind of across the board, which is good. I think, is there anything just like glaringly missing that anyone forgot? No? Okay. And if we can go back to the slides. So staff is going to summarize all of this. We can do two different things. We can summarize it, put it in an info memo, and send it out to you guys. Or if you feel at some point in time in the near future, or you guys want to do this right away, we can just bring it forward to council and you guys can vote on it as well. Again, I think there's a lot more power to you guys having this conversation and the relationships to hold each other accountable versus voting on them personally, I would say. You know, having worked on a lot of political campaigns, you guys worked really hard to get here, and you guys are going to spend an awful lot of time together. You know, it's every Tuesday, and so this exercise isn't about agreement on items. The system designed for you guys to not agree and for there to be minority voices, you know, that get amplified and different ideas come out. But it's about how do you show up next Tuesday and work together after a council meeting. So I think, you know, the relationships and respect and holding each other accountable to some of these, there's a lot more power in that than you guys voting on this. So my recommendation would be that we submit an info memo to you guys and you guys can take it from there. And if there's other things that need to be discussed, those can be agendized at a future time. Everyone okay with that? Okay, great. So we're going to move on to the last item. And so this is about the council staff communication relationship, which is already started to come up. And I really appreciate it. And it looks like I need to do the presentation really fast or the computer's going to die. And I would just say, so a lot of the slides that we showed you before and some of the slides you're about to see right now, Jennifer's required that senior staff see this on an annual basis too. So this is something that, you know, senior staff, we want to make senior staff and the directors that you guys work with on a daily basis very aware of the environment that you guys operate in and very clear about what it takes for this relationship and that, you move forward. Thanks. So again, this is about working effectively together and bridging that dynamic. And how do we do that? Next slide. It is about communication and the translation of information. And it's about aligning the governing body, you guys, and staff to deliver services for the community. And we do these in a few different ways. Next slide. There we go. Okay, so very quickly, there's a professor named John Albanian, University of Kansas. Really interesting background. He was a city manager while he was a public policy professor at the University of Kansas. After he retired from being city manager, he decided, I'm going to go run for council. This will be interesting. And within his first few weeks, he noticed, oh my God, I have to speak a whole different way. I need to view things in a much different way. We're speaking the same language, but we're not. And so I talked about before, what is going to make this organization successful to produce for our community is a balance of what is politically viable for you all, but what's administratively sustainable for the organization. And there's a balance there. So this is something that we show to senior staff. This is something that the professor had come up with that we've morphed in over time, but it's the realization of we're in different dynamics. And we're put there. It's not based off of our personalities. It's what we've come to do. This is what the institution are requiring us to do. And so even our activity, we're both trying to problem solve, but you guys are almost like in a game thing every Tuesday with the votes and trying to think that. You also are put in a position of representatives while you guys are asking us to be experts. Like Jennifer on your behalf has gone out and hired technical experts and all these things, and that's what you guys need as you're representing our community. You know, a good thing is you guys are debating, you guys are putting different arguments forward. We're there to provide facts and data and our professional recommendation, not represent anyone else other than that recommendation. You guys are the ones that need to represent your districts, you know, special interests, which, you know, you guys align, you know, on a values base. And then the conversations are very different, you know, and you know, a lot of times it's on Tuesday mornings, well, what have you heard versus, you know, we're kind of in the realm of what do you know? And the stories are different. Even how we write are very different. And I think a perfect example of this, and it's one of the things I enjoy most at the city, is when one of you has a council memo or a rules memo that's not yet published, and you guys reach out and say, hey, I'd like help with this. And I will just say, first of all, that's Jennifer's favorite thing in the world. You guys giving staff an opportunity to participate. Some of you do it exceptionally well, and I appreciate it. But that's the best, seeing that first draft, because you guys are talking about a passion you might have or the community has, or there's a story there. There's been some horrendous stories about people being killed on the streets and rules memos coming forward. And working with you guys to either get that to a green light or help you guys, you know, make part of that memo, okay, we see what you're trying to do, but we need to change these ordinances, or we need to fund these things, make it, you know, correct for the organization to compete that. That's always a really interesting balance, working with you guys, crafting those memos jointly with you, because we come at it so differently. We're trying to, you know, balance things and make sure it's appropriate, and if we need to change policies. And you guys are trying to tell a story because you guys are doing something that supports your community. You know, there's a need there. You guys aren't just coming forward with those things. So this is something that we train on at senior staff, and we call it kind of bridging the gap or minding the gap. You know, there's a gap between these two things. And so you all and senior staff, along with Jennifer and I, you know, we come to the middle to have these conversations. And so again, there's no action here, but it is just a recognition that that translation is really important. And then, you know, through the bridging and aligning, there's things that we do very purposefully in this organization to get at some of those things so that we have good working relationships. Obviously, around the alignment for priorities and your goals, we have a budget process that is very inclusive and comprehensive, as well as you guys went through a process around council priorities to try and align those things for us so that we can be specific to meet your needs. And then on the expectation and communication side, we went over it in your orientation a little bit, the one team leadership values and expectations, but we've also kind of post-COVID, Jennifer's been much more purposeful around council briefings and communication norms to get back to stuff that we used to do kind of pre-COVID. So I'm gonna hand it over to Jennifer, and she'll go through it a little bit, and then I'll jump back in.
Yeah. Thank you, Lee. So, you know, clear and open communication is clearly a key commitment from me as your city manager, and it's really, really vital to the work of the entire organization. Communication between senior staff and the city council is especially important, is in supporting your ongoing work and the organization's ability to give service to our community. As you all know, I regularly check in with all of you, and I also check in with our senior staff members on a regular basis. And one of the many purposes of those check-ins is to see how the communication's going between senior staff and city council, because I really want to make sure there's healthy communication going on and that you're getting what you need to do your job successfully. And as Lee said, coming out of the pandemic, that's when I became city manager. I thought it would be useful to establish a strong framework to help guide our senior staff in their communication with City Council, to ensure we have great channels of communication and information sharing that might have been disrupted by the pandemic. I kind of noticed that we really weren't having regular check-ins like we used to have, because everything was about the pandemic and briefings had stopped and things like that. Again, to that end, we developed these senior staff City Council communication and briefing norms that you have before you on the slide. And in spirit of the study session topic today, and I know I've previously shared these norms with you right when you all became council members, or for the ones that have been already here, as soon as we developed them, I shared them with you. I think they're very relevant to the discussion today. These norms are not just about sharing information, but also bringing a collaborative spirit Two, in building relationships, which we pointed out on some of your norms through our conversations. And again, I'll go back to Deborah Fagoni. She always told me when I was much younger in my career, the culture's in the conversation. That's the words that she used to say to me and to many, many others. Two-way dialogue is really important to our collective success and all we do to serve our community. My hope is that this framework will stand the test of time and serve as the basis for strong and productive relationships between the senior staff and the city council in the years to come. As always, and I've told each one of you this, I am very open to feedback. If you believe there's any norms on here that are missing or ones that we can should be focusing on or deserve particular attention, please let me know, because this can be an evolving document. But I just shared it again with the senior staff, and I do regularly, and it's part of their performance evaluation, because I feel so strongly about that, because I really feel that this is important for us to be collaborative and work together to get the work of the community done. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Lee, to finish us out.
Thanks, Jennifer. And again, in the interest of time, you guys meet with Jennifer quite regularly. I know I meet with you a lot as well. If there's things that aren't on here, again, talk to Jennifer. This is something that we constantly update and think about quite regularly as we work with you all. The one thing as we kind of work on communication and align ourselves with you guys is kind of we constantly are thinking, what does the governing body need from staff? And it is that expert, the data, a professional recommendation. And we're constantly thinking what we need from you. And that's, a lot of times supporting you through difficult policy conversations. I did want to bring up, one thing that we need from you guys, and, I'll just gonna pick out Councilmember Condellis. The day after he was appointed, he called and said, what's the one thing I can do to be prepared? And so I told him this, and I'm going to tell everyone, but the package we handed out to you guys, they're very specific to you. So it has your committee work plans and the Horizon report. Those are incredibly important. It's very important for us as staff that you guys are making informed decisions. When you guys feel you're not informed in making a decision, we feel we've failed. Part of that is, I'll just say it bluntly, you can't come into this room or chambers expecting to learn everything about an item. It's impossible. The staff presentations are going to be, here's what's changed, or here's some things from the memo that we really needed to point out, but it's not to go over everything else. Jennifer's, it's not just communication norms, it's briefing norms. You guys have the ability to use those work plans and the Horizon report to go, wow, this item's coming next month. I need John Cicerelli in my office. Or I need Chris Burton in my office because my land use item's gonna be coming in 3 or 4 weeks. Please use senior staff to your benefit. The mayor mentioned it as well. But get senior staff in your office as much as you want on those items that are gonna be critically important to you, especially being brand new. There's a lot of stuff that the last council initiated, and unfortunately with COVID, never saw it through. So there are large things coming back, whether it's cost of development, affordable housing, and I know we have study sessions where we'll do deeper dives into some of those, but we don't have the ability to do study sessions on every single one of those. So please use us. I've joked around that I think the committee work plans and the Horizon report, it's like a syllabus if you're a council member. Like it's going to change every week, by the way. But look at that and think, next month I need to know these things, and I get this person in. And you can ask Jennifer in her one-on-ones, but please always feel free to reach out directly to those directors and ask for briefings, because that's where a lot of that two-way communication and not just the why, the what, the how, but the what ifs. Like having a conversation on the dais about, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Those are really hard to have in kind of that context, especially with, the motions of, what if the mustard's not on the side, right? But that's where you can do deeper dives and really cultivate relationships with staff. So I really urge you guys to use that to your benefit, because Jennifer is very open about that direct communication and briefing.
Yeah, if I could add, Lee, going back, because we do have so many new council members, there have been so many policy issues that, again, are still coming before council. We are more than happy to get you the background materials. If you don't have time to meet or what have you, we can link you to the council memos or information memos to give you that background, or if your staff needs that background, they can also search, we can get it to you. So please do not hesitate to ask, because we'll be there for you 24/7 to get you what you need to make your informed decisions.
Yeah. Councilmember Davis?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Those briefings can also help you determine if you think there's something missing that you might want to write a memo about on the topic that's coming, and then it gives you that time to flesh that out, to figure out who you want in your Brown Act, and also to have that discussion with staff, find out if they think there's a supplemental coming that might address the issue that you're thinking about, or if there's not, hey, I'm thinking about doing a memo about whatever, and then have them get feedback. As Lee mentioned, there's very seldom do we do a memo in my office that staff hasn't seen in advance, because they can help us refine our thinking about it, and it also gives them a heads up if it's coming. Then they can weigh in on it.
And I would just say, it's not even, sometimes there's a memo written already and staff's happy to jump in and help. I would say there's been some times this year with a few of you where I know personally, some of you have called me and said, I don't like this thing, or this thing just happened and I don't know what to do. Directors are great for that too. Like, maybe there's an item coming and you know you're not going to like something. It's okay just to talk to them about the problem and see if there is a solution. Like, maybe a council memo is needed, or maybe staff hasn't thought about that as they're getting ready for their recommendation. So those are things too. You don't need to have something fully baked just to meet with staff. You can start from knowing nothing and be inquisitive to, I have a problem, or I think I have a solution, I need help. So all that is always an option. And will really help you guys when you step into chambers, be prepared on those items. So with that, we're going to end on time, it looks like, which is great. Some of the next steps, we will be in an info memo writing back to you guys on the norms and putting those into a format for you guys. And then with that, unless there's any questions, I'm going to hand it back to the mayor to close out the meeting and do public comment.
Can I just add
Okay.
one? Please. I think this is more on the last item on memos. I mean, one of the things I just want to express to my colleagues as sort of a helpful thing for me is trying to get memos out early. I think we started getting into a thing, I know last year, where a lot of memos came out on Tuesday morning, and especially if they're pretty complicated, it's hard for us to want to incorporate a last minute change or last minute memo without having had a chance to study it, to have our staff talk to city staff. Those last minute surprises can be difficult to navigate, and so I just want to encourage people to think through about, when you're putting something out, the benefit of doing that ahead of time is that we have a chance to review it. Without the chance to review it, it becomes very difficult for the rest of us. Yeah. And then along those lines, think about when you're doing a memo that's related to a topic, whether the memo is necessary or not, in the sense that sometimes you're asking for a small addition, a small change. A lot of those things will happen on the floor on the dais during conversation, and amendments can be made on the floor during conversations, and should be, and don't necessarily need to all be articulated in memos ahead of time, which makes it, I think, sometimes more complicated. So I just want to encourage people to think through, the use of memos for, significant additions and changes versus smaller things, and not necessarily needing to have memos on everything.
Good point. Any other reflections, comments? Councilmember Batra?
In terms of the meetings with the staff to get the briefing or a discussion or the things you talked about, one of the things I've been able to do with these staff meetings, besides learning, the changes which were appropriate, I've been able to suggest to them, and the staff was able to accept that, yeah, we will do it this way. In the next report, we'll be able to bring this data out. So there was no memo needed because they already understood. And from the dais, if anything had to be stated, it was fully known to the both sides that that's what's coming. And also, they were actually prepared to comment on it and endorse it, yeah, this is the right thing to do. So That's why the need for the memo has disappeared. So I find that to be a really good method of working beforehand.
Thank you. Okay, well, once again, I just really want to thank everybody for taking the time. Enjoyed hearing folks' reflections and comments and questions. I think Lee especially, but everybody on the administration side here, big round of applause. Thank you for putting this together. Really appreciate you taking the time and helping us spend this time together to think about how we work together. So looking forward to seeing everybody at our next meeting. And with that, we're adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. I forgot about that. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, Paul Sutton from the Horseshoe. A very interesting meeting. Thank you for having it. I didn't like the condescending tone at the beginning of the meeting because you don't run an organization. This is a democracy. You need to be very clear on that. And democracy is messy. How is democracy established? Democracy is established violently in California. Okay, remember the decapitations of people? That's how it started. Okay, so it doesn't need, racism was not talked about here in this meeting either. Racism is endemic in the policies and the rules. You see, because white racist men are the ones that created Robert's Rules of Government. So in the way that government is conducted is infected with racism. And you never talked about it. Okay, so that tells me that, you know what, you don't care. You really think that we're gonna sit here and listen to you say that, you know what, we're gonna focus on procedures. Basically what you were doing was you were telling the council members, which are elected officials, and that's why I didn't like the city's condescending tone that they took, especially the assistant manager and the city attorney, the tone that they took. You don't see, this isn't top down.
Please
This
direct
is
your
democracy.
comments to the body as a
This is
whole.
democracy. I'm directing it to you, Mayor. I'm talking to you. So in conclusion, you need to start talking about racism because I want you to go on the record and state that racism does not exist in the way that city government is conducted. Say it out loud and say it clear. You can't. And because you can't, that means it still exists. And because there was a failure to address that issue in this meeting, that means that all of your rhetoric and all of this time was wasted. This isn't top-down government. This is the people telling the government what to do, not you telling the city.
Call in user one.
Yeah, hi, Martha O'Connell, on behalf of many disabled people. Every single one of you council members got an email from me requesting that you not break up into small groups so that we could hear what you were saying. There are lots of folks who cannot come down to City Hall for various disabled reasons. So what you have done today with your vote is you set up two classifications of citizens in San Jose. The people who were sitting in the audience, they had the ability to walk around and get close enough to hear what you were saying. And those of us who could not come to the meeting today, we were effectively shut out. So it's somewhat ironic that you're talking about respect and you have just disrespected the disabled community. And thank you, Councilperson Botcher, for putting the motion on the floor. I don't know who seconded it, but I put in a request for that information. So I am very disappointed, especially with some of you council people that I have personally talked to. Very disappointed today. Thank you.
Caller 1541.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Hi, my name is Glenna Howcroft, and I am disabled. I've been disabled since 2004, but I'm also a veteran disabled. And, I watched what happened today, and you were talking about respect. I'm extremely disappointed. Extremely disappointed. I'm lost for words as to what what transpired. And yeah, I picked up the tone that the arrogance and not really caring and there being two sets of people. Yeah, I picked that up as well. I did. It came across, guys. It came across. And all I can say is, I'm just very, very disappointed in what I heard today and how things transpired. So I hope.
Go ahead. This is, just a reminder, this is on this topic only. We don't have an open forum in special meetings.
Okay.
Can you guys turn off the mic?
Is it on?
Thank you. I have a lot of time and money, so I'm glad I could come here in person, and I don't have any disabilities, so that allows me to be here to observe. I do have a lot of feedback, but I just put it in my phone, which gets monitored anyways. I really hope you guys all can get on the same page on things. I see a lot of little different groups and stuff, but not as much collaboration as there is possible between all of you. One of the major things that I suggest is working on your own biases and identifying them and then breaking them. We all have them. Like for myself, people see me and they see a short Indian woman. I see myself and I see a warrior. And so who do you see in yourself is really important, because that'll play out in your behaviors and each of your choices and your decision making. Overall, I thought this was really interesting, and I wish you all luck.
Back to council.
Great. Thank you, Tony, and thanks again, Lee, and everyone in the administration. We're adjourned. Thank you.